Hi everyone, welcome back to another sewing video and welcome back to my sewing machine. The last two sewing videos I made a petticoat and a corset cover, but those were both hand sewn, so I didn't really use my sewing machine much. If you've seen the petticoat video, you know. But I'm back at my sewing machine and it feels great to let the sewing machine do the hard work again. Now I'm kicking off a kind of mini series because there's one thing about my summer wardrobe that's been bothering me, and that's that I don't have a lot of staple pieces. I wear mainly dresses and skirts. Well, I wear exclusively dresses and skirts, and I have a lot of fun dresses, but I don't have a lot of basics. I have some prints, I have some more colorful ones, but I want some staples that I can wear for everyday wear, that I can wear to the office, and that I will not get bored of or get tired of the print. So I decided to make a couple of dresses and one other kind of surprise garment, but we're going to start with 3 dresses. So this video and then 2 sewing videos after that are going to be dresses, and then we do the special other garment. And one more thing about these items is that I want them all to be linen. I love linen in summer. It's really breathable, it's really light, and it's a natural fiber, which I prefer over, plastic polyester, because in summer you want your outfit to be breathable. I'm going to kick it off with this dress called the Avril dress, and this one I found on Etsy, and I saved this one a while ago and I'm really excited to finally make it. I feel like especially this one is perfect for wearing to work. It has short sleeves, it has a longer skirt, there are buttons all the way down the front, and hopefully it's going to be a really beautiful flowy dress, and there will be pockets, very important. So for the fabric, like I said, it's linen, and I think accidentally bought the same fabric in different colors but from different places, but I'm pretty sure it's all the same fabric. It's this beautiful blue linen, and I know most of my wardrobe is already blue, but I just love blue, so I decided to make another blue dress. There will be another color at some point in this series, don't you worry, it's not all going to be blue. So let's just start. I've already done a couple of things. I printed out the pattern and laid the paper pattern pieces on my fabric. Then I just got to work and cut out all the pieces out of the fabric. Once everything was cut out, I did some other things, which I call just the boring things. That's applying the fusible interfacing. So I cut out the pieces I needed of the interfacing and ironed it onto the fabric, as well as some fusible tape to go along the neckline and the waistline of the bodice to stabilize those areas. And then the darts. I really don't enjoy sewing darts, but needs to get done. And at least it's early on in the process so that I can get it out of the way and move on to the fun stuff. So I did all the darts on the bodice. That's 1 on each back piece and 2 on each front pieces. And then I also sewed on my little label, which usually I forget and then I sew it in at the end by hand. But the goal is to not forget and sew it on using the machine, because it's way quicker. So I did all of that, and now I'm ready to actually start putting this thing together. We're starting with the bodice, and I'm going to do a couple of things now. We have the back, and I've just pinned the center back seam. I'm going to sew that seam. Then I have the front pieces here, and I'm going to sew the side seams of the bodice and the shoulder seams. For the center back seam and for the side seams I will be using French seams, which is my preferred way of finishing seams. I just love how it looks. And then for the shoulder seams I will be overlocking the seam allowances. And once that is done, I need to work on the facing. I've pinned the pieces and I'm going to sew this as well. I'm going to finish them the same way as I will finish the shoulder seams. And then I need to finish the edge of the facing that will not be sewn on, if that makes sense. And for that I'm probably, but this may change, going to do what the instructions tell me to do, which is rare because usually I just do what I want to do. And that is overlocking the edge and then folding it over to the inside once and sew that down. So let's start sewing. So now that the facing and the bodice is ready for the next step, it's time to put the two together, which is pretty simple. I just need to pin the facing to the bodice, sew that together, and then I need to trim the seam allowance. I need to understitch, fold it to the inside, and then the facing should be done and we can move on to the next step. But first I need to pin this to the bodice so that I can then sew it together. Just making sure that as I go along that I match up the shoulder seam to the seam where the facing front is connected to the facing back, and that the center of the neck facing is aligned with the center back seam. Here we are. Now let's sew this together. And with that, the facing is attached and the bodice is almost done. It turned out pretty neat, so that's great. I'm now going to move on to the sleeves. So I have them here and I first need to ease stitch the top of the sleeve cap. So I'm just going to sew between the notches at the largest stitch length. Lovely. Then I folded the facing to the inside, folded the seam allowance under and sewed it onto the sleeve. Now let's set the sleeve into the bodice. That's one sleeve done, and that was easier than I thought it would. Usually I struggle with sleeves, with the setting in part. This turned out pretty good. I'm happy with this. So I'm going to do the second sleeve, have some lunch, and then we can move on to the next part, which is the skirt. And it's actually going pretty quick, this whole project. So I think this is going to be a one-day make, which is very exciting. Ta-da! So now that the bodice is done, I also, by the way, quickly sewed on these little loops here, and I quickly made string. Now it's time to start working on the skirt. First thing I need to do is the pockets. And with pockets, for me, the case is that no matter how many pockets I make, and so I will always get confused by them. So I'm going to follow this step by step. I have the pockets here, I have a template, skirt pieces and the instructions. And I first need to make sure that I transfer all the markings from the template to the pocket and the skirt pieces. Let's just take this one step at a time. I'm going to sew the pockets and I'll talk you through it when I'm done, because I don't know how it's going to go yet. So once I finished transferring the markings to the fabric, I laid one pocket piece on the front piece, making sure to match up all the markings, pinned it into place, and then I sewed along the marked line. Once that was sewn, I cut into the corners at a 45-degree angle, and then I trimmed the seam allowances. I then pressed the seam allowance to the pocket side and I understitched the seam allowance to the pockets. Then I folded the pockets to the inside and I made sure to press it so that it's completely hidden, kind of. You don't see the seam. Then I laid the other pocket part over it and I sewed along the outer edge of the pocket using an overlock stitch so that I kind of killed two birds with one stone and finished the seam while sewing it. Then I laid the back piece over the front piece and then I pinned the side seam, making sure to keep the pocket opening open at one side and making sure I only cut the other pocket part. Once that was done, I pressed everything once more and we have a beautiful inseam pocket. So the pockets are done. It went pretty well. That's the thing with the pockets. When I start I get confused, but then once I'm done I realize it wasn't that difficult. So the pockets are now in and the fronts are sewn to the back. Now I'm going to do what the pattern wanted me to do before doing this, which is the hem and then the button plackets at the front. I just need to fold the hem over twice or under, depending on how you look at it, and pin that into place, not sew it into place yet, because then I need to do the plackets, and for that I also need to fold it over and fold the raw edge under and make sure I press all of that. And then I first need to sew the kind of bottom edge corner of the placket, turn it then the other way around, and then I'm going to finish the hem and I'm going to sew on the placket. And then we're almost done, because after that it's time to attach the skirt to the bodice and then do the million buttons and buttonholes. But first, hem and placket. Once I finished the skirt, hem and the button plackets, it was time to attach the skirt to the bodice. So to do that I first gathered the top of the skirt, and then I just sewed it to the bottom edge of the bodice. And then it was time for the finishing touches, aka the buttons. I started by marking the placement of the buttonholes, and I just used the measurements in the instructions and made sure that the spaces between the buttonholes were even, and I also pinned in between the spaces just to make sure that nothing moved. Then I used the best invention, in my opinion, in the sewing world, my beloved buttonhole foot to make my buttonholes. And then finally I marked where the buttons were supposed to go, and then again I used my sewing machine, this time using the button foot, and let my machine do the hard work, sewing on the buttons. And with that we are done and we can look at the final result. She's all done and I'm so in love with this dress. I will be wearing this all the time. It's so comfortable. It's flowy. It looks so nice. You'll probably be seeing this one a lot in the next months. So I am very happy I made this. It was also pretty easy, I guess. Even the pockets, that is usually a little bit confusing to me, turned out actually really nice. You don't see them. That's the issue usually with me and pockets. You can tell from a distance there are pockets there. But these are truly invisible, which is amazing. So this has been a big success. And now I'm even more excited to continue my linen staple journey and work on the other dresses. And hopefully they all turn out as nice as this one as well. So for now, I'm going to end this here. Thank you for watching. Hope you have a great day and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.